Welcome in to the Illini Inquirer podcast. Jeremy Werner, J Leman. It's Monday, J Leman Day. Our All-American linebacker here. Yes, we had an off week. We don't have a game to respond to. We got plenty to talk about. We'll talk about the Big Ten race, probably for the fourth spot, because the top three looks pretty clear just halfway through the season. We'll talk about the coaching carousel. We've opened it up for a mailbag for J Leman to close this show. We'll talk a little Illinois at the halfway point. Here at 5-2, back in the rankings, despite not playing a game last week, up to number 23 in the AP Top 25. J Leman, good morning. How are you, man?
Good morning, man. Hey, good to be back in the Top 25. Had some teams fall out, had some upsets, had some great games, learned a lot about other conferences as well. So it's shaping up to be a great football season.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. 5-2 at the break for Illinois at their first bye week. They got another one here in 2 weeks, gearing up for that Washington game, which is clearly a really, really important one for both these teams. We'll dive into that, Jay, but I think it's a good time to kind of reassess, right? That's what the staff did this past weekend, and kind of like what this team is, what we thought it was going to be. So I'll open up to you. Like, what are some surprises for you, maybe in the positive way, about this team that you've seen through 7 games so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one, I think one of the biggest surprises I think for this football team has been the receiving core. We've seen. Well, the big question was Franklin and the loss of Pat Bryant going to be a huge issue, and I think at times you can feel it. Pat Bryant was the guy you go get a touchdown when you needed it. You think about how he won games in the Nebraska game, in the Rutgers game. But Beatty's really filled that role. He's been unique in his ability to score in multiple ways and get open in multiple ways. You've seen Hudson Clement emerge, especially last game. You've also seen Colin Dixon really up his game. Felt like early maybe they weren't in sync. Him and Luke that first game or two, they were trying to get him the football, and then they've gotten him the football. So that's been good to see. You've seen other guys flash as well. You've seen Ashton Hollins come in, make a couple catches. You then saw who's the fourth guy we see in there a lot?
Justin Bowick. I was going to say, Justin Bowick plays a little bit of that red zone role, right?
He's the touchdown guy, right? Bowick is the touchdown guy, and he's not a receiver, though he kind of is the Cole Rusk. We saw him make some plays. So I think that has been a surprise. I think Khalil Valentine being what I feel like is probably the best running back on this team. Now, I think you can make the argument that Caden Fagan maybe be the best, but he's very different. Or Aiden Lawfrey when he's healthy. It was good to see him healthy last game. But I've been surprised by Caden, by the ability of Khalil Valentine. And this wasn't a surprise. But again, I'm always taken aback that we have a quarterback that can go win games in the fourth quarter. It's been so rare in our time watching these guys over the last 15, 20 years as you have. To have a guy that really can go win games for you. And so that's on the positive side. I also want to give credit to the run defense as well. I think the run defense has been stout. That's one issue where for years we were not able to stop the run at all in any Big Ten game. And we've been able to do that. So those are some of the positives that I see. I will say David Alano is better than expected as well. I knew he was good, but he's been excellent. He's had 5 field goals in a game. He's had a game-winning field goal. And so that has been a pleasant surprise that David Alano is as elite as he is kicking the football.
Yeah, and this passing offense, I think we knew Luke Altmaier would be really good in himself, but the fact that it hasn't lost a step really, that's kudos to these receivers, Justin Stepp and what he's done, but Luke too, just kind of lifting all boats here. The passing attack certainly been a little bit more effective than I thought, so that's been awesome to see. But also, Jay, let's talk about some of the concerns, surprises. To be honest with you, I'll lead off here. I thought the run offense was going to be better. I thought this offensive line was going to impose its will a little bit more. The continuity would give them a fast start. That certainly hasn't happened. So that to me is one of the bigger surprises in the negative ways. This running game just hasn't seemed to click consistently.
Well, and why wouldn't you think that when you looked at the last 3-4 games last season where they really did impose their will in November and in the bowl game against a very good SEC front in South Carolina, and at that point, you thought, okay, this is going to be a team that's going to go dominate the line of scrimmage and win by running the football and then throw in play action with Luke Altmaier. It's really been Luke Altmaier moving the ball consistently. I will say in that USC game, you felt like they controlled the line of scrimmage a little bit running the football, and that opened up Luke on the play action in the RPO. But yeah, they struggled. I think early on, they really struggled to pass protect, which I was terrified for Luke. There's amount of hits he was taking and what his importance is to this football team, especially the Duke game, even the Western Michigan game. You felt like he was just on his back too much. We saw a little bit of Indiana. That seems to be cleaned up. He's had a lot of time to throw the football. I know he's had 3 or 4 sacks against Ohio State. I kind of put those more on Luke as he held the ball. And there was the corner blitz. They just held. But I think pass protection-wise, they're solid. This team is better at pass protection than run blocking. It just is what it is. You'd think they'd be better at run blocking. They're not. They're better at pass protection. And Luke Altmaier seems to be really comfortable when he's back there. He almost is too comfortable sometimes when he doesn't know when to get rid of the ball. He doesn't know when to take off and run because he really trusts in his offensive line. So I was disappointed as well in the run offense as far as the offensive line blocking. I've also been disappointed, and this is kind of a one that goes both ways, in special teams. In our big games, we have had some surprising faults, whether it be 10 guys on the field for a block punt against Indiana, which was a devastating play. I'm not saying we win that game. It certainly didn't help us get off on the right foot for that environment as far as momentum goes. Block kicks are one of the biggest momentum changers around. And then, of course, the knee against Ohio State. Those have been the critical things. Other than that, it's always been a strength. And we haven't really gotten Hank Beatty going after that first game or two. And I think down the stretch, he might be a key in close games like Washington. Can you get some of that hidden yardage in the penalties? Speaking of penalties, we've actually been pretty good. There's been teams, guys, where we've had penalties all over the place. Lovie Smith's teams were often penalized. You look at Maryland year in and year out, they're always high in penalties, right? And so there's some teams that always have a lot of penalties, and a lot of that is coaching and athletes that you get. But I think the penalties have been a pleasant surprise that we haven't been killed on the penalties. Maybe Illinois fans would say we haven't gotten some of the penalties that we should have when it came to pass interference or some other things that are going on, or a face mask on Luke near the goal line in that Ohio State game, but that's been good. Another thing I've been disappointed in is the third down defense. It really comes back to the back seven of this football team. I think there's been a rotating door other than Dylan Rosiak at the linebacker position. And Rosiak himself has not been 100%. Okay. So we've got a rotating door of JoJo Hayden or James Kreutz or Malachi Hood. You've seen Kenenna Odeluga get in there sometimes as well. We haven't had anybody go and really take that other linebacker spot. And I think that can hurt your coverages, along with Xavier Scott getting really out for a large chunk of the season. And then you've had your DBs get banged up, whether it be safety. Matthew Bailey had 2 games in there, really didn't play that much. You had Matt Gracetich, who was going to get a start, missing tackles, got hurt. You had Caleb Patterson, who you thought was a cornerback number 1, is no longer a cornerback number 1 because he got banged up and now has really been beaten out as Juice Clark has come back. You've had all these multiple parts. You thought these defensive backs would be better. They haven't been great as far as getting off the field on third down, and that's really been tough for Illinois in the time of possession. They've really got beaten in the time of possession. That's coupled also with us having bigger plays through the passing game, but it hasn't let Bielema really play the ball he wants to play in possessing the football.
We talked about last week, Jay, just what they need to focus on to get better. And I think you talked about leaning into the passing attack, maybe some more 11 personnel. That's why one of the most interesting guys, I think, maybe in the final 5 games of the season, could be a Cole Rusk, right? If you want to play some 12 personnel, maybe he's the guy you put in there. Or if you want to spread things out, he can be basically a slot receiver in that role, or you could just play him a little bit more. What do you think of the possibility of Cole Rusk? And is there anybody else on offense that you think gets a bigger role after this off week?
Well, I think Hudson Clement has earned a bigger role just being out there. I think he had a chance to have a tremendous game against Ohio State if he makes that catch in the second quarter, which was a good ball by Luke that could have got us into field goal range. So I think Hudson Clement's earned more playing time. Again, I'm interested. How do you get Caden Fagan and Khalil Valentine on the field at the same time? And is that moving, one of them to Caden Fagan into an H-back at sometimes to get him on the field? He can block. He has the point of attack, and he's a good receiver. I don't think that happens in the bye week, but I'm not necessarily opposed to it. Do you throw in a little Hank Beatty wildcat? We've seen a little bit, but why not? He's a good enough athlete to do that. You don't want to take the ball out of Luke's hands all the time, but you have to say, who can we get the ball to? I think Cole Rusk earned more playing time, and he's got good he seems to have good chemistry with Luke, but at the same time, you've also got to get time to Justin Bowick, who has been really productive for the reps he's in. I mean, if we could look at the reps he's actually in, the targets he gets, the plays they call for him. And so you feel like you have good depth at receiver and moving the football, but everything gets easier when you can run the football. And we just have not been able to run the football consistently. And it's very interesting to me that, when we do run the football, it seems like we have some momentum and then we have a negative play. It doesn't seem like we are able to just impose like we have been at certain times. And so the consistency just hasn't been there in the run game. And so it falls on Luke these last 5 games. And there's only 5 games guaranteed, I guess, with Luke as your quarterback. And you really got to ride that pony.
All right, defensively, is there any personnel, any moves that they can make here, or anybody that should earn a little bit more playing time or a bigger role?
I've thought Joe Barna's been really physical at the point of attack. I know he doesn't maybe have the most production, but I think Joe Barna, and I know it's one of their deeper positions is the outside linebacker. Leon Lowry, I thought, has played well the last 3 or 4 games. Gabe Backus, always solid. We know that. Alec Bryant, a veteran. I like Joe Barna. I think Dylan Rosiak, when he's in there, has played well when he's healthy. I know he hasn't been 100% healthy. He's been shaken up in other games, and that's been difficult. Malachi Hood has all the physical tools you want, the size, the speed, the athleticism. At some time, he hasn't been, in my opinion, getting the reps that you would think someone of that athletic ability should be getting, which means there's got to be something as far as, is he doing the assignments he's supposed to do? Is he executing the way in the technique they want, in the assignment they want, that they want? JoJo Hayden's popped at some point too. Sometimes he shows some explosiveness, but we just haven't seen consistency from that linebacker play. I think your 3 defensive linemen in the core, you've seen Angelo McCullum kind of make a push here the last 2 or 3 games to get some time. I think you got to see him pushing Tomey, pushing Kurt Neal, pushing, I don't think you're going to push James Thompson. I think James Thompson's probably the most dominant stalwart you have there, but I think Angelo McCullum's earned more playing time. He's made plays, had a sack and a half, I believe, against Purdue, and has shown me that he's very active along the line of scrimmage. So I like Angelo McCullum. I think Joe Barna is a guy that as he gets healthier and healthier, and I'd love to see Daniel Brown off of the edge. I think Daniel Brown, if he can remain healthy, still has that other pass rush edge that we've been missing a little bit when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. So those are the players that I feel like, at least in the front 7 when I watch it, have earned more time from what I can see.
Yeah, and you mentioned the guys like Angelo McCullum started last game, had the most reps at nose tackle, so that was a clear I think we're starting to see he's starting to really emerge in that nose tackle rotation. The back end, we've seen more Sabor Kareem recently, kind of rotating in. They've shown some 3 safety looks. He's gotten some snaps in that rotation. Tanner Heckle, I think, is going to be a heck of a player, and I think he just needs reps, kind of like Xavier Scott needed reps his first year. But if Caleb Patterson gets healthier, can you bounce Torrey Cox inside? Like I don't know how many moves they have in that secondary without Xavier Scott there, but it will be interesting to see if Tanner Heckle continues to get better, if Sabor Kareem starts to get more reps as well.
Well, I think Sabor, one thing he shows it has is a lot of length at that position, more length than we've had that position before. And do I think that Sabor is probably a more natural strong safety, but you have Matthew Bailey in front of you? Probably. So they're trying to get him on the field somehow. I guess I've never really seen Tanner Heckle play much corner. I've seen him play nickel, which is a difficult position to play. So I don't know if would you say you would bounce Knox in and when Patterson comes back, or are you saying that you would put Heckle out there?
Yeah, I'm just thinking you got Denzel Boston, big physical guy. Ian Strong Rutgers, big physical guy. I'm just wondering, does Torrey Cox give you a little bit more consistency? on the slot, because I thought that's what he was going to be when he got here. But Xavier Scott just kind of took that role, and Torrey bounced out. So, yeah, if Patterson's healthy, I know he hasn't had a great year. I don't think he's been healthy barely any of it, Jay. But if he gets healthy, I just wonder if you see some rotation at the star spot, because Tanner Echo's been thrown at. He's been picked on. I think he's competed. I think he's going to be a really good player, but clearly teams are going to keep going at him.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing you start with what you have for certain, which you probably have. You're certain that Juice Clark's probably right now your best cover corner, so you lock down that spot. Sure. Probably Miles Scott has too much experience and has played too well in leadership wise to really get knocked off of the free safety spot. I think what you then have is you have 3 to 4 other positions, depending on what personnel we're in, where who's going to play. Cox has been the guy for the other corner at this point. But without Xavier Scott in there, it's been a big question mark of who's playing nickel and then where's Sabor Kareem fit. And so I think they're trying to figure that out. And this is where coaching comes in handy, right? These last 5 games, what really gives them the best chance to win? Interesting, I've seen some teams go back to more of a base scheme, not necessarily Illinois, but play with more linebackers on the field and say, hey, we're going to play with our linebackers on the field. We'll take away the run. We know our linebackers won't do much, but we're going to ask them to cover the underneath zones and be over the top. So do you do that? We saw some 2-man where we said, hey, we want you guys to guard underneath and be over the top. Now, Jeremiah Smith will bust the 2-man within the first play of, a deep dig route, but in that third play of that Ohio State game. But it does add questions. You think Sabor Kareem, though, you see a lot of talent there. You see why he was a 4-star kid out of Jersey, I believe. You see it's there. And this is a kid that 3 or 4 weeks ago, according to Brett, had conversations of possibly being in the portal. And now he's looking like a key contributor on defense, so it can happen fast.
New sponsor alert. We're proud to add Game Day Spirit as a new sponsor to the show. Most Illini fans should be familiar with Game Day Spirit as the official fan store of the Fighting Illini, selling the best Illini gear in town or online. And that's why I'm personally excited about this partnership. We have a lot of people in town who can visit their store in Champaign at the corner of 6th and Green in Campustown, or at Neal and Kirby in Champaign, really close to Memorial Stadium and State Farm Center. But we know we have listeners all around the country, all around the world, and that's why Game Day Spirit is great, because you can go online at GameDaySpirit.com and get the best Illini gear available. And right now, Game Day Spirit is kicking off their partnership with us by offering an exclusive discount for you Illini Inquirer listeners. Get 15% off your next purchase with them online at GameDaySpirit.com when you use the code Illini15 at checkout. That's 15% off your next purchase with Game Day Spirit at GameDaySpirit.com when you use the code Illini15 at checkout. You can shop their great selection of Fighting Illini merchandise to continue to cheer on your Fighting Illini football team this season, or get some new gear to support the men's basketball team as they start their season. They have everything an Illini fan could want, from t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, and official NIL jerseys of your favorite Illini athlete. Visit them in store in Champaign, or at the corner of 6th and Green in Campustown, or Neal and Kirby in Champaign. And be sure to use the exclusive Illini Inquirer discount for your next online purchase at GameDaySpirit.com by using Illini15 at checkout at GameDaySpirit.com. That's code Illini15 for 15% off at GameDaySpirit.com. Game Day Spirit, where Illini fans shop.
All right, Jay. I mean, the weekend for the Big Ten, I don't know if the weekend helped Illinois' resume all that much, because USC lost, right? Duke lost to ranked teams. So I don't know if their resume was helped, but boy, if there's going to be a 4th team in the Big Ten, one of these teams has to step up. And Nebraska blew it against Minnesota. USC had a chance against Notre Dame. Some questionable calls there by Lincoln Riley. And then Washington lost at Michigan, a game where they had a chance to take the lead and had 3 picks in the final 20 minutes there. So that spot's wide open. And Illinois, obviously going into Washington, has a lot to gain here, Jay. So what do you think of this matchup? What do you think of this opportunity for Illinois going into Husky Stadium?
Well, one, I think this is your toughest game remaining. Although Northwestern continues to surprise. They're 4-2. I saw your tweet. I think they're 3-1 in the Big Ten. Yeah, 3-1. And
schedule gets a lot tougher for them, but yes,
it starts to grind a little bit more here, right? But they beat Purdue 19-0. That's real, right? They did beat Purdue 19-0 at home, and so they're playing defense. They're running the football. But Let's start Washington. I think the harbinger, whatever that word is, of this game is Ryan Walters, right? It's like it just kind of hangs over your head of like, he knows our personnel. He's probably recruited a lot of these guys. He has always seemed to play Brett pretty tough at Purdue. He played him pretty tough with a win, and then obviously probably should have won last year, even with that team. And so, but at the other side, you're going to say, well, shoot, Barry Lunny knows Ryan Walters pretty well as well. So I think that evens out a bit on how they're going to attack. Here's where I think Illinois has the advantage in that they're in year 5 of their coach, Brett Bielema. They have an established 3-year starting quarterback, and you feel like 4 of their last 5 losses over the last 2 years have been to top 10 teams. You feel like this is usually a game that Illinois has been able to go in there and win. Now, does it always look pretty? Does it come down to the fourth quarter? Usually. Yes, it does. But you feel like you feel really good about it. Now, on the other side, you say, it's at Washington, not an easy place to play. You're going against Ryan Walters. You're going against a quarterback that can really move the pocket. And, a team that has their 2 losses have been to, Ohio State and Michigan, who is not great, but is a physical football team. And so I think this is going to be the toughest matchup for us. Again, I always say this, and I hate to just beat a dead horse on this, but in these close games, it always comes down to turnovers, red zone, third down. You win those, you're going to win this football game. And those are all products of other things, running the football, right? Take your quarterback play and everything else. So there's a lot said right there. But at the end of the day, I do like Illinois in this game. However, I do think this is their toughest game moving forward of all 5 remaining games.
The interesting thing is Washington's rushing offense has not been as good here during Big Ten play. 61 yards against Ohio State. Ohio State does that to people. Only 40 against Michigan. Only 115 against Maryland on 36 carries. Went off against Rutgers. Demon Williams had an unbelievable day there. But Jonah Coleman's a stud running back for Washington, but he hasn't been able to get going here recently. So how do you expect Aaron Henry to attack Demon Williams, who's this unbelievable athletic quarterback, but can be, has a proclivity for turning the ball over a little bit, but also a really strong rushing attack and a future NFL receiver in Denzel Boston. I mean, that's a 3-headed monster of this offense, but some teams have been able to contain them a little bit here, Jay.
I think it always starts with stopping the run. If you can't stop the run, you can't do anything, number one. You think that Juice Clark, a lot of times like he was with Jeremiah Smith, would probably would try to get around Boston, even if he is in the slot sometimes. Do they move Juice Clark? Because he just really has the length at corner that we really don't have that's healthy. Caleb Patterson had some length, but he's been banged up. Tyson Rooks has length, but very inexperienced, right? So I would expect every football team wants to get the run going. So do I believe that they're going to try to get the run going? Obviously. Do I believe that Williams is going to try to run the football at the quarterback position? Yes, I do. And when we look at how we played other quarterbacks, where we always try to make them beat them with their arm, when it comes to other mobile, whether it be Lenora Sellers, whether it be Jalen Daniels, or whether it be you name it, right? Aiden Childs.
This reminds me of Jalen Daniels. That's what this game. I would imagine this is the Jalen Daniels game plan. Yeah,
right. So I think they're going to keep everything in front of them. They're going to try to contain him, and at the end of the day, we believe that we have the quarterback edge. And if we can give our quarterback a chance to win the game in the third and fourth quarter, Illinois has got to feel pretty good. But they've got to start faster than being down 20-0. It's just not going to work out well against anybody. That's what happened with Ohio State. And you've got a defensive coordinator who really knows Barry Lunny, and you got a Barry Lunny who really knows Ryan Walters. And so I think it's a very interesting matchup. And you've been talking about this game for a long time as a game that once you got through the kind of the gauntlet of the first 7 games could be a decisive game. And you're like, is this going to be the Minnesota game of last year where you're kind of like, you don't play your best and then you're stuck at under 10 wins in the regular season? Or can you win this game, play a Rutgers team that did not look good against Oregon? Now, Oregon's makes a lot of people not look good, but they made Rutgers not look good at all. and then get to the bye week, and then maybe have your weakest 2 or 3 opponents that you've had to, yet. Because Wisconsin and Maryland seem to be on the skids right now. But again, and I don't mean to just beat a dead horse here, but anybody can beat anybody. Remember, Rutgers was up on Washington until late. And then Maryland was up on a lot of guys until late. They got beat by UCLA just late, Wisconsin hasn't really been up on anybody. But that's a whole different thing.
I think I saw they scored 3 points in their last 27 offensive possessions, which is just ridiculous. But
wow.
I do want to ask you about Barry Loney, Ryan Walters. Know each other incredibly well. I would say Ryan Walters kind of had the upper hand against Illinois, but Barry was able to score a lot of points on Ryan Walters' defense last year. So what are you most intrigued about in that kind of battle of the minds of guys who are so familiar with each other?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's going to be, what is the disguise game, right? I mean, I think I think what Ryan Walters is going to do is he's going to come out in disguise what he thinks Barry thinks they're going to be in. And so Barry's going to okay, they're in this, and they're going to try to disguise. But after you've had so many reps with people, like in practice and everything, it's really, really hard to do that. But if I look at the tape, and I'm a defensive coordinator, I want to hit Luke Altmaier. He's been hit. Not as much as he was hit the first part of the season, but he's been hit. And so I would expect pressure to be brought by Ryan Walters. And I would expect them to not only bring pressure in the pass game, but bring pressure in the run game and get us in 3rd and long and try to really dial it up. If I'm Barry has done really, really good. And he did this against Ryan Walters' defense when he was at UTSA. I think the RPO game can be there. If you are going to play the type of coverage that Walter's going to, you got to be able to stop the run and stop the RPO. And when Luke's on, he's tough to stop in the RPO game when he's hitting that ball in that upfield shoulder number like he does. And so I would expect that. But Barry's always got 3 or 4 things ready. And I think with the bye week, he'll have 3 or 4 plays ready as well. Just in case to dial up against the scheme of Ryan Walters. So I know those guys are friends. I know that they go back and forth. And so it should be a great matchup to see. If you're Illinois, you're like, can we just get Ryan Walters out of the Big Ten, or at least on a team that we don't have to play? Because he's had to play his former team now, I think 3 years in a row.
Yeah. Brett Bielema's record off the bye, I don't have it off the top of my head. It's really good. How big of an advantage is that for a team?
Well, here, I think we played, which team did we play that was coming off a bye? USC or somebody? We played somebody that was coming off a bye, not USC. But I think it is an advantage when, you're playing a football team, okay? Especially now with the schedules of like USC made a big deal that they played the latest game in the country, and then they played like the earliest game in the country when they came to play Illinois in 1 week. And so you got Washington going to Michigan. Illinois has a bye, and then are traveling back out to Washington. So do I think it makes a difference with kind of some of the travel schedules? Yes. Do I think it makes a difference when you have not had a bye for the whole season and you've been banged up in specific areas, AKA running back and the defensive backfield? Yes, I think it's going to make a difference. And I do think that Brett has assembled a good coaching staff, and they're going to look at stuff and say, okay, what can we do that's a little bit different? What can we do that we haven't been doing great? How have people been attacking us? So I think it's going to give us an edge. If I had to put a number value on it, I'd say it's worth 3 or 4 points.
One play can change a season. One upset can silence a stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher, and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Illini. That's code Illini to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill and Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
All right, so before we get to the mailbag, Jay, here, the coaching carousel continues to turn. There's some big jobs here already open. Florida State not yet open. Wisconsin not yet open. Seems like
it's a bloodbath. Have you seen something this bad? I mean, usually I felt like it was November, okay, or you'd wait till 10 games through or the last game of the season, and it has been I don't mean to cut you up. It has been a bloodbath. I mean, Sunbelt Billy got cut yesterday, right? So he's gone. We obviously had James Franklin. Deshaun Foster, I thought, was a dead man walking for a while as the interim, right? You had Mike Gundy fired. You've just had a lot of different guys get axed early. And I would say this too, and Colin Cowherd said this probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. He wasn't necessarily a fan of the early fire and doesn't think it really helps the student athlete because, the coach they recruit them is no longer there. But I will say this, that sometimes, not always, teams do play inspired. UCLA would be an example of that. They played inspired. We haven't seen that. I mean, Penn State, you could have made the argument if they won against Iowa, they played inspired. But I don't know if I'm a fan of it or not. It just seems like there's so much out there right now of people just getting fired left and right in college football. And I'll say this, and I'm rambling a bit, but it's almost like this. When people thought the 12-team playoff was going to help people get into the playoff, and it does, okay? But it's almost like the 4-team playoff seems so unattainable that guys like James Franklin could keep his job. Oh, Ohio State got it, or Georgia got it. It's the same 4 teams. We're still a good program, We're playing in a New Year's Six bowl.
We're going to the Rose Bowl, right?
We're going to the Rose Bowl, okay? Now it's like, well, shoot. If it's the top 12 teams, and top 12 is different than top 4. If you get that third loss, it's basically like you're not going to the playoffs. You look at everybody that's gotten beat. They've all had 3 losses. Whether it be Gundy, whether it be Franklin, whether it be Sunbelt Billy had 4, everybody pictures himself as a playoff team. Florida does. Penn State certainly did. And so when that doesn't happen, it's like, we got to blow the whole thing up. You're not a playoff team. So what it was supposed to help these teams has now been their own demise because they weren't able to get in. So it's hilarious to me.
I'm just amazed at how these teams are imploding like they are. Like it's just like they just fall apart on themselves. Like Wisconsin, I thought that going into the year just because you're in year 3 and you have that much turnover on your staff, you have that much turnover in your roster, and you add all these transfers and you don't get off to a good start. Like that just doesn't bode well for me. I've seen it too many times, but Penn State imploding. Yeah, but Penn State imploding on itself, like Oklahoma State, we knew wasn't going to be very good, but just the way that's happened, and Florida State beat Alabama, and then they lose 4 straight ACC games. It's just pretty amazing how that's happening. I do want to ask you, Cignetti staying at Indiana, I thought that would happen. Which job is better, Penn State or Florida, Jay?
That's a tough. That's a tough one.
I don't think they're going to be in on the same candidates, but like it's an interesting conversation. What's the best job?
I would say this. I thought, it was a little more clear cut when there was East and West in the SEC and the Big Ten, right? Because Penn State was kind of just getting crushed by Michigan and Ohio State there. If you look at the records, they were getting crushed. But I would still probably say, I think Florida's not the same job it was when Urban Meyer was there, when Steve Spurrier was there. It doesn't seem to have the same type of pull, but you certainly are close to your recruiting grounds, although Pennsylvania has good players and Ohio has good players, right?
Jersey.
And Jersey, you get a lot of players out of Jersey. Great point. Florida, everybody's recruiting in Florida, right? I mean, shoot, you got Florida State, you've got Miami down there, and now you've got UCF down there as well. That's a really, really good question. I think right now, maybe I'll go with Penn State because I think Penn State's had more recent success. And I also believe that Penn State probably has just as not, if not bigger, money behind it than even Florida. Florida seems like it's middle tier SEC. I mean, it really does. At least you still think of Penn State as top third tier Big Ten, right? Florida feels to me like it's certainly below Georgia, Alabama. It's below Tennessee. It's even below LSU, below Texas A&M and Texas, and it's not as good as Oklahoma right now. And Oklahoma's not great.
Yeah, I mean, it's kudos to James Franklin that Penn State is that good of a job, right? Just what he's done there, the sustainability he had for 12 years. Florida, man, that's been a revolving door since Urban left there.
Yes.
I mean, 4 coaches, I think, and none of them have really had great success.
I mean, they've had Mullen, they've had obviously
Westchamp.
Westham, and then the guy who was at Central Michigan. I can see his face.
McElwain, yeah.
McElwain. Yeah.
You're thinking of the shark picture. That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah. Nobody's done great, right? At all. And so you're like, man. But the fact that these teams are just like, I'm done with you. And Napier, I guess he was a little bit less warm of a shot because he kind of saved his job last year with some run up and they were turning it around. But I wasn't surprised by the Cignetti. I mean, I think the Penn State opening really helped Cignetti because he's from Pittsburgh and get paid. Now, it couldn't work out any worse for if they wanted to get Cignetti to fire James Franklin after he beat Oregon. And it was just, it kind of reached a panic, I think, probably in Bloomington, if we've got to lock this guy down. Now he's the 3rd highest paid coach, in the country. He's done amazing things there. At the same time, has he had enough games to warrant $11.6 million? Well, maybe. What he's done is pretty incredible, but he hasn't played a ton of top 10 teams or won against a ton of top 10 teams. This whole thing about Matt Rule to Penn State, I still don't understand that. It's like, because Matt Rule's top 25 record is not great compared to James Franklin's top 25 record. So I'm just glad Brett Bielema's on the lockdown for the Big Ten. And I don't think Brett would go anywhere, but if you really look at what he's done, it's been impressive. And I know he's got those non-competes in the Big Ten, so that's good.
I'm sure a lot of fans are happy just to not be in these conversations and not have to worry about Brett unless it's an NFL job. And I think he has more to prove to get something like that.
Fall's here. Crisp air, football, maybe a bonfire or two. But if you're like most guys, you're still putting in hard work. And yeah, that means sweat. Don't let body odor side on you. Mando deodorant plus sweat control is for real working guys. Formulated to stop odor before it starts and doesn't mask odor with overwhelming fragrance. So you can tackle anything from the job site to tailgating with confidence. Don't mask it, Mando it. Guys, Mando sent me their starter kit and it is a fantastic product. It keeps you fresh all day long. It's not your typical deodorant. It's clinical strength and it's 2 times better at controlling sweat than the standard. It controls both sweat and odor for more than 72 hours. And after just 12 hours, underarm sweat was reduced by 92%. This stuff works. So try out their starter kit, which includes deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like their mini body wash, deodorant wipes, and get free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code Illini at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. Shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness.
All right, Jay, let's get in the mailbag. We asked for some listeners to send in some questions. We got some really good ones. So you ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. These are all, I'm surprising Jay with these. Isaac said, what's Jay's take on the defense since Bielema has arrived? The offense has grown each year while the defense hasn't. Is it as simple as catching lightning in a bottle and developing Lovey's talent and producing an NFL-filled defense in 2022 that they haven't been able to replicate that? So just take me through what you've seen from the evolution of the defense compared to the offense, which has been steadily climbing. The defense obviously has had some more ups and downs.
Well, I think that you had a great hire in Ryan Walters as a coordinator, and I think that you did inherit some talent, but you developed that talent. Those guys were not playing at that level under Lovey Smith. Some of them were younger and whatnot, and you had a generational talent at cornerback in Devin Witherspoon. So I would say my expectations were absolutely blown away the first 2 years in the system as far as the improvement they had defensively and what they were able to accomplish defensively as well. As far as the last 3 years, I've been disappointed. I don't think we have a defense that allows us right now to reach the level of Big Ten success that we want. And we talked about this. 2 years ago, the defense lost us games. Last year, it didn't win us any games. This year, I thought it won us the Duke game by keeping us in it and creating turnovers. And they've had a lot of injuries. But, yeah, I think if you look, and Brett after the 2023 season, when they took a step backwards, said they needed to make some changes, right? They got Andy Boo out. They put a new defensive a linebacker coach in. The outside linebacker position as coach has kind of been a revolving door a little bit. They brought in Corey Parker. I think's done a lot of really good things at the cornerback position in recruiting. But at the same time, you feel like we haven't progressed where we need to be. I know a lot of that falls, and people talk about Aaron Henry and not getting the job done and whatnot. I think it's bigger.
I want to interrupt you, Jay. I want to ask you, I'll use a Ron Zook term, Jimmies and Joes and X's and O's. How would you kind of break down the problem for Illinois' defense?
I will say yes to both of them. I think I hate to be a guy that fence sits, but I don't think Aaron Henry, and he'll tell you, I think he had a lot of bumps in the 2023 and 2024 season. I know that Brett's there to help. I know that at one time 2 years ago, Jim Leonard was an analyst, right? All those different things. But it seems, especially when you let Kevin King go, who was, I think, the associate coach, or maybe he was a high position, right? And you're going to promote Aaron Henry. It feels like coaching-wise, we haven't had great plans on the defensive side of the ball sometimes. That's just me trying to be brutally honest. Number two is, yeah, Jimmy's and Joe's is the thing. When you lose 3 NFL guys in the back end, you're not just going to replace them like that. At the same time, this year you have a lot of experience, but you've had a lot of injuries. So I think some of it's been talent, some of it's been coaching. At the end of the day, though, the result hasn't been a dominant defense, something that can get us into that top 4 of the Big Ten. And I think that's what we're all looking for.
For sure. Ryan says, how many years will Illinois need to be consistently winning for them to garner the fans' trust that when one bad thing happens, everything else doesn't fall apart?
Well, it's a lot of trauma we've been through. What was his name?
Ryan.
Listen, I'll say this. There's so much trauma. I think the more trauma you go through, and I'm no therapy expert, but I've been through some in my life, is that you expect this bad stuff. I call it the Illini trauma, right? You've had this Illini trauma with you that Brett has not experienced, and he's always trying to get us to be like, hey, you don't have to be like this, right? So I would say this, though. The more I've watched Brett coach and the more I've watched his teams, the more I take deep breaths and say, even if we lose like we lost at Indiana, I doubt that's going to happen again the whole year. Where I would watch previous coaching staffs and we'd get beat like that. Like next week, we might get beat like that or worse, right? So those are more one-offs than they are, the standard or the habit of the football team. And so I don't know if that piece will ever go away, because when we were young, that's how it was. We'll always have that. But at the same time, as my father said, the Bears, the Illini will always disappoint you. That's what he told me. And to this day, I'm like, the The Bears are going to disappoint me. The Illini are going to don't get your hopes up, right?
Yeah.
So I get that, and I understand. But at the same time, I feel like it's getting less and less. I'm getting less and less reactive to that.
Yeah, what has amazed me is how quickly Cignetti has turned it for Indiana. Like going into that Indiana game, the Hoosiers fans were incredibly confident. Like there wasn't like, oh, well, it's going to be a great game. It was like, no, we are going to destroy you. That's what's amazed me about Cignetti is how he's flipped that entire mindset.
And start with his first press conference, right? He said, "I win, Google me." And I said, "How are you going to turn around?" "I win, Google me." And then he got up there and I think at the basketball game, it was like, "Purdue sucks, Ohio State sucks. We're going to beat these guys." Be like, who is this guy? And to his credit, he has got them believing that now they can be a perennial football power. I have seen no less than 3 national guys come out and be like, "Yeah, Indiana could be the next power." I'm like, what are people saying? Just because they signed a big contract, just because Cignetti's really confident? Like, I still don't buy that, but I know that people are really high on that. Talk to me in 5 years. If they've been to the playoff 3 of the last 5 years, I'll believe you. But I just don't know if what they have right now, they have a special group right now with Mendoza and those receivers and some of the guys they brought in, especially transfer-wise on defense. They've got a special group right now. Here's the thing about special groups. They graduate. Those guys are gone. And you might replace them with talented guys, but it'll never be the same chemistry. You might have the same result, but you also may not have the same result. So I have not seen sustainability there. What he's done is remarkable, but it's not sustainable yet.
And as I think as D Brown always talks about, like when you leave a program, when that group leaves a program, that other group that's coming in expects that success just to happen, right? So like you have to learn how to win. Like you still need to know how to win and learn how to win.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's recruiting better. I'm sure they're starting to get 4 and 5 stars looking at him. I understand that. He's won everywhere he's went. Yeah. But this is a special group he's got right here. These guys could win the national championship. I'm not joking. They have a legit chance. I believe they'll be in the Final Four. I think they'll be in the championship. I don't know if they'll win it, but they have a legit shot to be national championship with this group. Not many teams can say ever that they have a legit chance to win the national championship. So I give a ton of credit. I give a ton of kudos to them. Whether it's sustainable or not, I'm not willing to say that Bloomington, Illinois is the next Athens, Georgia, or Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Columbus, Ohio. I'm just not there yet. I just don't think you can do that. As good as Cignetti is, he hasn't proven it there.
Still not doubting the man.
I mean, he does a great job of making you believe, for sure, and he backs it up.
Ed, following up on this, is the Big Ten the best conference in college football this year?
So I would say it was pretty obvious there from about 2000, I don't know, ever since 2002, when Ohio State won that Big Ten, that championship against Miami. For about 2000, for a 20-year stretch from there, it felt like the SEC was a better conference than the Big Ten. You look at the bowl games, look at the conferences and whatnot. What I would say, and if you hear noise, because I got people outside my house blowing stuff right now. Now they're by this window. Sorry. But what shifted is in 2012, Urban Meyer came to the Big Ten. And in reaction to that, Jim Harbaugh came to Michigan. And James Franklin, who came from Vanderbilt, came to Penn State. And honestly, but really Urban Meyer started recruiting on a national level like we had never really seen in the Big Ten. And that completely changed the game. And I think what you saw was, of course, they won a national championship in 2014, very close other times. The last 2 or 3 years, you've seen, especially with NIL, it seemed like that the playing field leveled out, and that in the top games against top teams, our top tier teams were better. Big Ten teams were better than the SEC. This year, I'll take Ohio State, Indiana against anybody. I really will. I think those 2 teams can beat anybody in the country. And I think Oregon is right there with other teams. I think what I would say is the slice in the middle, I think Vandy's a good football team. I think Tennessee's a good football team. I'll put Texas A&M's not even in the middle. I mean, they're a good football team right now. They're number 3 in the country, right? But Georgia, LSU's still a decent team. I know they got beat by Vandy, right? So that kind of Ole Miss is a good team. Georgia's a good team. There's a slice between, I would say, 3 and 7 in the conference. That's probably better than our 3 to 7, if that makes sense. So the middle of the conference feels stronger.
I feel like the Big Ten has 3 teams that can win a national title. The SEC, does it have 1? Alabama? Texas A&M maybe?
I watched Alabama early, and early in the season against Florida State. I was like, no way. Now they're looking better now, but they still don't have a defense that I think is national championship worthy. Where I think Indiana does, I think Ohio State does.
Julian Sayin, man. Julian Sayin is a baller.
And I talk junk about Julian Sayin. He's starting to get better and better and better, right? He's a good football player. So I don't think Texas A&M is great. They barely beat Notre Dame, and I don't think Notre Dame is a phenomenal football team. So, again, I don't think they can – I don't see a team that wins the national title unless they get hot in the SEC. I think right now their middle of their conference is pretty strong, though.
Yeah, I would say this. I would probably take the Big Ten over the field of the other conferences to win a national championship. I think the SEC probably wins more bowl games against the Big Ten this year.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I'll say the teams that aren't going to make a bowl are dog water for the Big Ten. Though. I mean, they're not playing good. The bottom 2 or 3 are not really good football teams. And here's the deal, guys. We could all step back and say, let's take a program like Michigan State and Wisconsin. We used to want to be Michigan State and Wisconsin. We like with D'Antonio and Paul Christ or whoever was there, even Bielema. Like we wanted to be them as Illinois. We're there right now. We are like a Michigan State, Wisconsin of the teens. Okay, that's what we are. And you can see those teams have fallen on hard times. I'm not sure Jonathan Smith's going to be able to get the job done at Michigan State. I just don't see it happening. Right? I just don't know if that's going to happen.
I think he's 3-10 in the Big Ten, with 7 of those losses by 20+ points. I just don't see what's going well there outside of Aiden Childs and Nick Marsh are talented, but that's about it.
I mean, this is a guy who coached at Oregon State, and when he left Oregon State has been horrible. Okay, so he's done some good things. I just don't know if he's a fit at Michigan State. It's just tough. He's kind of out of his recruiting wheelhouse of the West Coast.
Not recruiting well,
and it just feels really, really. And to see Wisconsin, we have not seen Wisconsin this bad since Barry Alvarez's first year or 2. That's how bad they are. They have not been this bad since the early 90s. That's how bad they are right now. And so, again, I'm happy for where we're at. And again, people can get on PJ Fleck or Kirk Ferentz or even Brett Bielema, but hey, they're getting it done.
It's not the worst place to be. Yes, you want to do better, but man, I think he's built Iowa light there, and Iowa just continues to Iowa. Jay, like there's a lot of fun to be had when you're 7, 8 wins, 9 wins every year, and some special years you can get to 10.
See, here's the thing. I think, and nobody talks about it anymore, but remember PJ Fleck was literally on everybody's next job list the first probably 3 or 4 Minnesota years, right? And he's kind of like, I'm gonna lock it in Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised to see PJ get nabbed by one of these jobs coming up. He could be a
Penn State. Wisconsin, don't you call him? Like if I'm Wisconsin, I'm calling him.
I think you call him, right? I think you call him and say, "Will you come to Wisconsin? Will you come?" I mean, it's closer. He's basically out of Caneville and Caneland in Chicago, Western Burbs, until you feel like that's close to where it was at. Went to football at Northern. There's been a connection between Northern and Wisconsin coaches for years. And so that's going to be a call. I think Penn State could give him a call. I think Wisconsin's probably going to talk to Pat Fitzgerald, honestly.
Lance Leipold makes a lot of sense too.
Lance Leipold. Yeah, you said that last week.
Yeah.
And then Cotel Nicky coming back to be his coordinator. That would be a tough matchup year in and year out for sure.
Yeah. All right, a few more. Pat says, how about an expanded role for Daniel Brown? You brought him up earlier, Jay. Let's move him around so the opponent doesn't know where he's coming from. I'll give Aaron Henry's played Daniel Brown a lot when Daniel Brown's been healthy. He just hasn't been healthy a lot.
Yeah, I think he's, from what we saw in JUCO, really good football player. I like to see him move around. If he's not healthy, though, he can't really play. So if he is healthy, I'd love to get him out there and whatnot. Again, we don't get to see him rep. I know he hurt, I believe, his back or something again this year. So if he's healthy, and hopefully this bye week helps, you'd love to see him get some production and move around and get some pressure, because we desperately need pressure on the quarterback.
Alana says, Michigan had good success bottling up the Washington offense. Can Illinois use that as a template? Is there anything we should look for as far as personnel scheme adjustments against Washington based on what Michigan did?
Yeah, Alana, I would say that one thing I think it is that they made Williams throw, and he threw the ball to him. I think that was the biggest key, right? I mean, you threw 3 picks, I think, in the last, would you say 20 minutes or something like that, that really flipped the game. And so, again, our defense feels like a turnover or bust defense, where you got to get a turnover. You're not going to get a ton of 3-and-outs. You're not going to get off the field on third down. So how can we punch the ball out? How can we get a pick? I think if you get 2 turnovers from an Illinois defense, that's a really good day, and you'll take that. And I think if they get 2 turnovers against Washington, they'll win that game. They get 2 turnovers. They average 2 takeaways the last 5 weeks. Illinois wins these 5 games. I think it's as simple as that.
Bance, what have you seen that's causing our rushing game to fall off a cliff versus good defenses? And what can we do to make sure we get the ground game going against Washington? They're 7th in the Big Ten in run defense.
Man, I really wish I could tell you. I really, Bance, that we would have the answer to this. I just think our guys are better at pass blocking than they are at run blocking, to be honest. I was watching the Oregon-Indiana game a week and a half ago. Indiana moves Oregon off of the line. I mean, the amount of movement they got with their offensive line was incredible to me. And I just haven't seen us change the line of scrimmage that much. With
USC, we got a glimpse of it. We got those double teams, those duo blocking.
We got a glimpse of it. And maybe if Josh Cruz comes back healthy, that changes things, right? Because he's probably going to be, as far as game goes, 4 weeks out from that injury. And so that could help. I think we've got to do a better job. Usually it's about getting the second level. It's not. It's just blocking the first level for this team, honestly. It feels like we've had so many negative plays. We haven't even blocked the first level and had so much penetration. And so, yeah, I would say I don't have a great answer, because we've been looking for that answer. But it's a good question. Been looking for that answer the last 7 weeks.
Yeah, I'm watching the Bears right now run the ball like they are, Jay, and it's amazing what a run offense can do for you. Just one that consistently run the ball like that.
It just gives you a break. It's like you don't have to actually execute in the pass game every play to actually make it work. And then there's nothing more demoralizing to a defense than you can run the ball on them consistently. And it makes you play so much more aggressive. You can't play passive and stop the run. But if you know they can't run, you can play passive and be ready to, defend the pass.
Javier says, if Lunny becomes a head coach, should we go get Shieldhouse?
Here's the thing. I don't know if we can get Shieldhouse.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
I think Nathan Shieldhouse would be a great coordinator. Please, Nathan Shieldhouse. Love you, buddy. Great guy. Great leader of men. Great alumni. Super dude. Would be great for kids. There's a reason that Matt Campbell kept promoting him at Iowa State. There's also probably a reason that he went to the Rams. I don't know if that's family life balance or whatever and how important that is. But Nathan Shieldhouse would be a home run hire on the offensive coordinator position for sure. I'm just not sure you can get him from the LA Rams.
Yeah, because he's like the right-hand man for Sean McVay. He's going to be an offensive coordinator next, and he's on a head coaching list already. Like, so if you're going to be the offensive coordinator under Sean McVay, who's going to have success, you're going to be a head coach within the next 5 years in the NFL. So yeah, that's awesome for Nate, right? It's awesome. I don't think coming back to college helps his career trajectory.
I don't think so either. And here's a guy that he just does stuff the right way. The one thing that could maybe get him back in a college game is a head coaching position. And I think if Campbell leaves, I think they might call Nate Scheelhaus to come and be the head guy at Iowa State. Just because I think it'd have Campbell's blessing. He knows how to run it there. He's got Kansas City ties, which is a recruiting ground for anybody who's in Iowa City, not Iowa City, excuse me, in Ames at Iowa State. And so I think he'd be a great fit there. Whether he'd want to do that or not, I mean, I think he can kind of pick what he wants to do at this point.
That'd be interesting. That'd be really interesting. Sean, I just want some funny Ron Zook stories, to be honest. You got a funny Ron Zook story for us?
One time I remember that we were in the midst of one of our losing streaks in the first 2 years he was there. He just decided to come in, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was basically like, do you feel bad for yourself? Does your mom not love you anymore? Did your girlfriend break up for you? Did your teacher tell you were a bad student? Do your brothers not talk to you? Do your friends? Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you lost. Nobody cares. They care about them. So stop feeling sorry for yourself. So you'd always say that, number one. So we would mimic that and say, like, did your girlfriend break up for you? Your mom doesn't love you, all that. So we would do that. So he was furious one time that he was like anal about little things, right? So he's like, if you're going to be a championship team, we got to do the little things right. So he hated that some people didn't hang up their towels in the locker room. Just could not stand it. So he warns us. He's like, listen, if you don't hang up your towels, I'm taking the towels away. So like the next day, somebody left a towel out and took the towels away. He replaced them. I don't know if you've ever been to a public bathroom, but you can pull like a paper towel, like it's a 3-folded paper towel. So where the towels were, he put stacks of these like bathroom paper towels, not like on the roll, like the ones you like pull out.
Yeah.
And for 3 weeks, I kid you not, when you took a shower, you had to use paper towels. And he said that you would learn that it's a right, it's a privilege to have real towels. And so I do remember that. I also remember one time I had the idea, which I saw. This was so Warren Sapp had this idea with Tony Dungy, or maybe it was John Gruden, that the defense on a long 2-minute drive should be able to call a timeout so they can give rest to the defensive lineman. I just saw this, but I had this idea too. I was like, we were dying in this one drive, and I think it was a camp scrimmage. It was hot. We couldn't get off the field. And then I had the idea that I was just going to call timeout. As the middle linebacker, I was going to call timeout. They were just dominating us on this because it was like a live scrimmage and stuff. And I called timeout, and you would have thought like I had hit Juice and broken his leg or something. I mean, it was like he came up to me furious. He's like, "You're on defense. You don't have any timeouts." And he was, said it in a screaming fashion. And from that day on, I was like, okay, well, I guess there's no timeouts on defense. Like, so no one was allowed to ever call a timeout on defense. He's like, I'm the only one who calls anything. So that was a mistake I made. Yeah, I could keep going on and on about these on some of the lines. He would say, "Oh, I will say this is many times before a game, you go back in before a game, and there's lots of time warming up. But sometimes if you would catch Zook in before a game, probably 60 minutes before a game, in the locker room, you would see him dead passed out like that." And I'm like, he would fall asleep before the games. Like, because he'd relax, and then he'd be jacked up. And then, if you're a kickoff team and get the smelling salts out, you had to get the smelling salts going. And then he would smell the salts himself. But before he would do it, which tend to wake you up. So those are a couple stories. Yeah, just a glimpse. He did tell us in the Rutgers game in 2005, we were down, I believe, 20 points, 27-7, I think, at halftime. And he said, "Yeah, we've got it right where we want them." And we just kind of looked at him like, okay, I guess so. We did come back that game. So those are different things that you remember.
All right, Blue Crew boss, after J Leman graduated, from that time to present, name the 4 best linebackers to wear an Illinois uniform. And I would have to say these are like true off-ball linebackers, right? Not the Whitney Mercilesses Gabe
the
Ackuses
Michael
of the world.
Buchanans or the
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to put Jake Hansen up there. Jake Hansen was a good football player. Britt was my era, so I think it's tough for me to not put. Britt was a year after me, but Britt made a lot of plays. Britt Miller, Jonathan Brown, good football player.
Great defense, 2011.
Yeah, so Jonathan Brown was a good football player. Jake Hansen, good football player. There's had a couple ones that had some good years, like Delshawn Phillips had a good year, but who was the guy? He coaches now.
Dele Harding.
Dele Harding had a good year, right? But I'm trying to think consistently who was playing.
Is it Rosiak?
Rosiak could be up there. I'm trying to think during that Beckman era. Was there anybody else that I was? Oh, Mason Monheim. Got to throw Monheim. Monheim was a good football player in there. You got to remember Monheim.
Trey Watson had a good year before he left.
Trey Watson had a good year before he transferred.
Had his best year at Maryland.
Yeah, I definitely put Jonathan Brown and Jake Hansen up there. Jake just couldn't really stay healthy. That was a difficult part for him.
I'd agree with you though. I think Britt and Delshawn would probably be up there for me.
Yeah, Britt and Delshawn made some. Delshawn I think still playing in the league, and Britt had some years in the league. And Jake's still playing in the league. I'm just trying to think of as I go through all these linebackers and whatnot. Yeah, that's probably my list. If I forgot you, I love you guys.
Illini alum, last one for you, Jay. As a college player, what is the best and worst things about road games?
Well, what was the best thing when you're not good is you go to play against packed stadiums that are just yelling and there's some different energy there. The hardest thing when you're bad is when you just have a bad nobody's there. There's 20,000 people there. Their expectation is that you suck, and most people are gone, by halftime.
Yep.
And so I think that's a drain on your energy that you have to fight. So I think that's the best thing about road games. The worst thing about road games is if you're a big routine guy like me, you have to figure out your routine for that space. The timing's always the same, but like, where am I going to be at? Like, it's literally a garage at Purdue. Like, okay, where am I going to do my warm-up stuff that I want to be indoor if I play them and it's cold weather? Or where am I going to find space to do what I need to do? Where's my training table as far as because I want to get taped by the same person. So there's all these kind of routines. So I think it's really the routines kind of are the worst part for me. I never minded the crowd. I think that's part of it. That's the fun part of it. And you have the energy in the stands. That's probably the best and the worst. Another thing is, if you take a long time after games like me, the snack that they give you from Popeyes or Domino's is always like soggy, lukewarm. After road game, it's kind of like eat it, and you're like, it's kind of cheeks, as the kids would say. Yeah, that would probably be the worst part. Those are just the random things I think about.
Good stuff. Jay, you are the goods, man. Appreciate your insight. Appreciate you answering all those questions for you. We'll talk to you next week after a huge game at Washington.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for listening. ILL.
Great stuff as always from J Leman. Appreciate his time. We're about to catch up with all the Illinois coaches, the offense coordinator, Barry Lunny, defense coordinator, Aaron Henry, and head coach, Brett Bielema. We'll talk about the off week. Obviously, huge game coming up against Washington, going up against Ryan Walters, going up against Jed Fish, and this really, really explosive Washington offense. We'll have you covered at IlliniInquirer.com, so stay tuned there for all the latest. And, of course, we'll have plenty more for you on the podcast side. Michael Tulip's going to join me on Tuesday to break down his thoughts in the Illini's exhibition game, look ahead to the close scrimmage against Florida. And of course, we'll have the Washington preview for you later in the week. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe to us and hit that notifications bell so that when we do our post game after the Washington game, you'll be alerted on your phone and come right in, spend that post game podcast with us. We appreciate when you guys join us on there. But for J Leman, I'm Jeremy Werner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer podcast.